Hey guys, so I finally saw The Lighthouse a few days ago and then again the night after it, and I was going to do a review on it, but probably depending on where you are, it's already been out for a few months, and I wanted to do something different. I want to analyze one of the most scary scenarios that one can have in a horror movie. Yes, I know The Lighthouse isn't technically a horror movie, but for the purposes of this video, let's say it is. But that scenario is isolation. So I took The Lighthouse, a brilliant slow burn film, and my favourite horror movie of all time, The Shining, another film about insanity born from isolation, and then I researched it to find out what isolation does to people to make them go crazy, using examples from the films to demonstrate why this is the scariest horror situation. Also, spoiler warning for both The Lighthouse and The Shining, so proceed at your own caution. So I'll give a quick recap of both movies. So in The Lighthouse, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson go to a lighthouse off the coast of Nova Scotia, and they both go a little crazy. And then in The Shining, Jack Nicholson goes to a hotel with his wife and son, and he goes crazy. There's your recap. There are a lot of people who might just compare scenes and how they visually look and where they fall in the film, so I'll do that first for the sake of getting it out of the way. Going to an isolated and cold location for an extended period of time. A character who is quiet and an introvert. Exploring the location. A horrifying vision. Sexual hallucinations. Scary hallucinations. Sexual fantasy. Trying to escape. Destroying or incapacitating the escape vehicle. Chasing after a character with an axe. I think I got him. Chucking them down something. Buried alive. Axe attack out of nowhere. Hallucinating about someone from the past. Hallucinating of a dead person or twins. Tumbling downstairs. And an ambiguous ending with the main character dead. So let's go to our psychology lecture. So isolation, of course, is the state of being completely or near completely cut off of contact between an individual and the rest of society. Now in both of these films we have characters with someone there, but in The Lighthouse, Howard has Wake, who has completely cut himself off from society and who has a strange relationship with the light in the lighthouse. Howard has nothing in common with this weird, drunken, perverted, nonsensical sea dog, thus making him cut off from any norms of society. Compare this with Jack Torrance. Now, Jack is there with his wife, who he almost seems to despise and appears irritated by her often questioning nature. And his son, Danny, who has an apparent social handicap, talking to his imaginary friend Tony. So there's another Gorn, shutting himself from his family and the rest of society. So effectively, we have two guys who are there with irritants or people they rarely interact with. So the reason that isolation screws with our brain is because that humans are inherently social beings, often driven by a herd mentality, relying mostly on the actions of others to have a strong hand in dictating your own decisions. However, in these films, due to there being no social interaction with anyone sane, it causes the brain's neocortex, which is believed to be proportionally sized on how social we are as a species, meaning that our brains are built to socialize, and when it isn't doing what it is fundamentally meant to do, the mind is put under unnatural stress. So right here is where Jack makes his big mistake.
Whether you don't hear me typing, what the fuck you hear me doing in here, when I'm in here, that means that I am working. That means don't come in. How do you think you can handle that?
Meanwhile, this is Howard's mistake.
I ain't never known an inspector what won't turn a blind eye. And I won't take no for an answer.
His first drop of alcohol, where he invites this lunatic to make conversation with him, starting drinking to make conversing with him more easily. Someone who is so disjointed from society that this works as a double negative towards his sanity. He's welcoming this guy to communicate with him. Positive. This guy is a fucking psychopath. Negative. Another impact of isolation is one of the biggest factors in both of these films: hallucinations. In The Lighthouse we see mermaids, victims, allusions to Greek mythology, and a weird tentacle queen Willem Dafoe. So hallucinations are often triggered by traumatic events. So the supposed murder of Ephraim Wilson, which Howard pretty much confesses to, is the event fueling some of the hallucinations and supposedly lending themselves to his introverted personality. Hallucinations occur when the stress hormones are put under, of course, great stress, seen through the immense amount of physical work that Howard has to do, forced by Wake, wearing away at him. before later finding out that there is a probability that he won't get paid for it. In The Shining, it is a bit more difficult to determine what is a hallucination and what isn't. The woman in room 237 is real, because we see Danny encountered her as well, and also the visions of the twin is a vision conjured by The Shining. However, if we go off the theory that Jack has been bringing people to the Overlook Hotel, or that he is an embodiment of the evil nature of the hotel, a man who takes his family to the house to butcher them, then some of the visions he has could also be fueled by these traumatic events, a la his conversation with Lloyd who has murdered the girls. Similarly, being warped by isolation and going mad. Another point is that isolation causes you to anthropomorphize objects, giving them human-like qualities and characteristics. In The Lighthouse, we have one glaringly obvious example of this. The mermaid. Howard finding a trinket in his mattress and becomes so infatuated with it, being the only thing for him to relieve his sexual frustration with, to such a point where he starts dreaming of one. And then he finds it. And instead of instant bewilderment, it immediately turns sexual. Eggers using bizarre shots and makeup to demonstrate how twisted and perverse Howard is turning due to the isolation. The final element of isolation that pops up in The Lighthouse is actually implemented fairly early. Howard says that he is not into talking much, showing that he is storing away his emotions, such as stress and fear, in order to simply survive with his sanity. This is an example of compartmentalization in order to focus energy on other activities rather than non-essential emotions. However, as soon as he starts drinking, he and Wake's relationship starts to grow. This is the moment where he starts to lose his sanity, taking an interest in what Wake is doing, following up to the lighthouse, and eventually this curiosity driving his madness to a point of violence, hallucinations, homoeroticism, anthropomorphizing, and homicidal actions. We see his madness, sexual frustrations, alcohol intolerance come to a head. From these actions and warping of a character's psyche, I hope you can understand why I find the genre of psychological horror, or a film that deals with those elements, to be the scariest type, and most interesting for a film to deal with. To me, the scariest possible situation is your mind becoming twisted into someone completely different. So thanks guys for watching, please subscribe to The Young Cynics and let me know if you like this sort of video, delving more into a film's themes or analysing elements outside of film structure and narrative. Please check out these other videos, and until next time, bye!
Midnight, were the stars and you. Midnight, and a rendezvous. Your eyes held a message tender, saying I surrender all my love to you.